love supporting local businesses and watch brands that are not popular on YouTube. Now, Rose Coffee is located here in Southern California, and they source their fair trade and specialty grade coffee beans in small batches from all around the world and actually roast their beans in-house. Pretty good stuff. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I never really use my dive watches for their, let's say, intended purposes, diving. However, I do use my bezels on a daily basis to brew my coffee. And of course, some other not so exciting things. Speaking of dive watches, today we will be taking a look at the Aries Gold Black Sea. So stick around. If you haven't seen my unboxing video, go check it out. The packaging on these Aries watches is incredible. This is the first dive watch for the company, and they've been around since 1970s. Therefore, in my opinion, it's a good step in the right direction to take the company from their mostly, avant-garde design to a more traditional design. The watch is a part of a limited edition of 1,000 watches, and it looks both very vintage and elegant, and it's not something you see very often in dive watches, and I really like it. The watch is entirely constructed of 316L stainless steel. The case does measure in at 43 millimeters. It's 51.4 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip. It's 15.4 millimeters thick, but about 2.2 millimeters of that it's the dome crystal. The lug width on this is 22 millimeters and it weighs in at 107 grams with the supplied leather strap. At first glance, the first thing that jumps out at you is the dial. They do offer other dial and strap variations, but I went with this model because it features a Meteorite dial that's been acid treated and it looks awesome. I've heard a lot of chatter about Meteorite dials and I've actually featured one on the channel, but this one's definitely different and extremely beautiful. It features round, rectangular, and triangular shaped applied indices throughout the dial that do have lume and are polished around the edges. The date window is located at the 3 o'clock, and it actually really blends in and it doesn't seem out of place with the rest of the dial. At the 12 o'clock we do find the company name, the word automatic, and 200 meters. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this since I'm always used to seeing the specs on the watch called out at the 6 o'clock. It kind of helps balance the dial, and in my opinion I would have liked to see that from the company. Also, I would have liked to see the company logo applied at the 12 o'clock instead of the entire word just printed out. But overall, the aesthetics of that don't really seem to bother me that much. Now, on the re-hot portion of the watch, we do find printed minute markings, and something that I really like is the semi-skeletonized minute and hour hands. I especially like the arrow style hour hand that works with the triangle indice located at the 12 o'clock. Nice touch. Protecting the dial is a boxed mineral crystal with blue AR coating, and I mean plenty of AR coating that in certain light you can't even see the dial and it makes the logo disappear. I know for some this is a bit much. I think it's pretty cool. Now, I did ask the company why they chose to go with mineral instead of sapphire, and I was told because they really wanted that distortion and of course that vintage aesthetic. Around the dial we do find a unidirectional coin edge 120 click aluminum bezel with laser edge markers that has a really good response to it, and it's a pleasure engaging with it. Not so much backplay here, and it really lines up well. One of the key features I wanted to talk about was the size of the bezel. Now typically bezels are a little bit bigger, but this is a slimmer, more skinny design that really gives you those vintage vibes and makes the dial appear, of course, a lot bigger. And in my opinion, it makes this watch look different from all the other micro brands out there, and I really enjoy that. The indices and hands have a good amount of superluminova, and I'm glad they applied plenty of it. However, it would have been really cool to see some lume on the bezel, or at least on the bezel pip, but overall has really good lume and it does last a while. At the 3 o'clock we find a big 8mm screw down crown that's been signed, and it helps with the 200 meter of water resistance. Screwing and unscrewing the crown is pretty simple, feels well machined. The only issue I did find with it is when the crown is unscrewed it wobbles a little bit, but other than that It should be fine, and it should be noted also that I did contact the manufacturer about this. I was wondering if this was purposely done like the Bostock watches. I was told that there's a little spring in there, but it should be fine. The entire case is pretty well finished, and again we find that vintage knot due to the lack of crown guards. We find that the entire case is mostly brushed, and we do find some polishing around the top, and the chamfering has been executed beautifully, and overall no rough edges here. On the back we do find an exhibition screw down case back that's constructed both of stainless steel and sapphire. I find it interesting that they went with an exhibition case back, as most dive watches feature a solid case back to minimize failure when it comes to water resistance, but I'm assuming this watch is targeted towards a bigger demographic and non-watch people. I think looking at the movement is cool, but I would have liked to see a solid case back. Now around the case back we do find info about the watch along with the limited edition number. I happen to have number 35 of 1000, that's pretty cool. Beating away we see the Seiko NH35A automatic movement that can be hacked, hand wound, and we all know this is a really reliable movement, and that's one of the main reasons a lot of watch companies use it, along with the fact that it's easily accessible, serviceable, and if it breaks, well, it won't leave you broke. The movement hasn't been decorated, and for this price point and the fact that it does have an exhibition case back, I would like to see some decoration of the rotor. As mentioned previously, this watch is offered in both a leather strap or a stainless steel bracelet. I went with this one because of the dial, but I would have loved to check out the bracelet. Nonetheless, aside from the faux pas and chat around the community about putting leather on a dive watch, I think the watch looks really nice with it. As a matter of fact, the leather strap is well constructed, feels super supple. It features a solid stainless steel buckle that's been signed, and one of my favorite features, of course, quick release spring bars. At the end of the day, you can easily change the strap to whatever you want, as there's plenty of 22mm options in the market. This watch was given to me and I don't have to give it back, and I appreciate that. But I do have some reservations about the watch that I hope they correct in version 2.0. But these are my opinions, so take them with a grain of salt. First, the watch is big, and I would have liked to see it measure in between 39 to 40 millimeters, and of course a lug-to-lug dimension of, 48, 49, something less than 50. In my opinion, it will make the watch more wearable and of course give it more of that vintage aesthetic. Also, although I do love the distortion from the dome mineral crystal, I would have preferred sapphire for better peace of mind. Now, from a functionality perspective, I really do think they need to add some lume to the pip of the bezel. After all, this is a dive watch and functionality is, well, key. Okay, so I know the company said that there's nothing wrong with the play on the crown, but I personally don't like my crowns to have any sort of play, as it makes me feel nervous and feel like they're going to malfunction. So hopefully they get that corrected. Now lastly, let me talk about the price. Currently this watch costs $359, and with the current specs, I think it should be priced maybe around $295, $300. But again, these are all my opinions and my views, so price points I know get looked at very differently from different people. But overall, I really did enjoy the watch and got a few compliments from family members and friends. Everybody loved that Meteorite dial, and so did I. The construction, packaging on this watch is on point, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone. I do have another Aries gold watch in for review, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. It really does help. And as always, my friends, stay humble.